Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brilliant Business Podcast. And today we're joined by Rachel Harvey Afuwape of Backup Administration. Welcome, Rachel.
Welcome and thank you. You got that perfectly right.
Can many people not say Backup Administration?
Yeah, people are often confused.
So, Rachel, you're an operations and administration consultant. Can you give us a brief description of what that is?
Doing all of the administrative work that it takes to run a small business and keep everything organized and streamlined. But I also extend that to going into people's houses and offer that private lifestyle concierge service. Yeah, doing all the admin and operations that mostly people don't like doing for some reason. I love it.
So, you wrench order from the jaws of chaos, basically, is your job description.
That's exactly it. My website says bringing clarity and balance. Yeah, I just like to help people see wood for the trees.
Amazing. In terms of the business support that you do, who's a typical user? Can you give us some examples of a typical client?
So a typical client can sometimes be a small business owner. So they may be working for themselves, or they may have up to 5 to 10 employees, generally 1 to 5. They are my main client who don't have an admin department themselves. Or it could be a freelancer or an individual working for themselves who, again, have no team, have no HR, who have no support around them otherwise.
And what are the sorts of things that you would do for them?
So each client is different, and that's why I love what I do. I tailor every role is tailored to their needs. So it could be that they have a one-off project, so they need all of their systems reviewed, or there's no systems. So I'll come in, have a look at their systems and just streamline their activity. So it could be from setting up an expenses and mileage log to project management. So a one-off project, putting their systems in place, or it could be that they have no admin support. So I work with them half a day, 1 day a week, and I manage all of their admin, all of their project management, and everything it takes to run their business, really.
So, Rachel, I think one of the many benefits that you offer is because you've been into so many businesses and done fractional service provision for quite a number of clients, is that you bring a wealth of experience with you. And another benefit is that you don't add the expense of an employee, which obviously is a big expense at the moment. But what do you think are the main benefits of VA being brought into a business?
So I guess for my client is the commitment is, as you say, you're not employing me. So there's no holiday sickness pay. There's no 0 hours contract, so to speak. I'm very clear on the goals and objectives of bringing me on board with timelines and outcomes. So there's no ambiguity about, what's going to happen at the end, or what's the point. So I'll come in with clear objectives on how I can help on that particular project. But also because of my experience over 30 years from secretarial work through to executive assistance work and all admin in between. So a bit of HR, a bit of creativity with PowerPoints. I taught myself how to use PowerPoint and Word. So I've got a granular experience of A, using that software, and B, how to use it and the tools for each particular client. So because every client is different, my experience means I can hit the ground running dependent on what the role is. And also because of the networks that I'm involved in, I don't profess to know how to do everything, but I do have an amazing team and pool of people that I work with as an associate, so to speak. I call them my associates to help me fill those gaps with the expertise that I might not have the experience in.
Tremendous. I think it sounds a lot like a business can avoid a lot of issues and pitfalls by getting you in early, especially when they're busy setting up, rather than sort of learning by accident. What's been the main benefit for you that you see in coming in early for a small business?
Well, coming in early means that I can set the scene of where they want to get to very quickly and how best for them to achieve it.
I wanted to talk about business purpose because you talked about that and clarifying that early. How many businesses do you see where that's not clear?
In terms of what they're looking for in bringing me on board, or themselves as a business?
themselves as a business?
Not many, to be fair. It's about the objectives and how they want to get there is what they're unclear of. For example, a few clients have come and said, "Oh, I need to get you on board. I need you to look at my marketing." But the outcome was, after a conversation with me, actually, they didn't know what they wanted to market because they were thinking of pivoting. So the discussion was around, there's no point in me working on your marketing if you're going to be pivoting and changing your business model. So what they needed ultimately was just some business support, helping them streamline their time to give themselves half a day to focus on their business development and where they want to go. So mostly people, by the time they've come to me, have got an idea of they've got their business model. What they're unclear of is how to streamline, what systems they need, what compliance, which is massive these days. They've got no idea what that looks like and how to meet that objective.
So when you start with a company, how do you figure out what are the priorities to work on?
I sit down and have a conversation, basically, either on Zoom. I like going in person, which is why the term VA doesn't exactly fit 100% with me. I was recently speaking with somebody and they said, "Oh, I didn't come to you because I want somebody on site." And I said, "That's exactly why I don't call myself a VA, because it says what it is on the tin, virtual assistant." But I like to go in, sit down, have a conversation about the business, really get an understanding of not just what the business does, but how that person operates within the business. And I can then extract from their head, because mostly people know what they want to do and they know how they do it, and it's all in their head. So I sit down and I literally extract what they do from when the phone calls, for example, with customer experience. What happens when somebody calls? Do you put it through to somebody? Do you send an email? And document it and create a process for how they operate. So that's how I work with clients, is sitting down, have a conversation, really understanding what they need in relation to the gaps that exist. If somebody wants to, I don't know, run reports at the end of the month. An example, I had a construction company and they had no idea if they were making a profit on any project that they were doing. So we had to look at how they operated in order for me to adjust their systems, put systems in place that identified all of the costs in relation to a particular project and all of the income, so they could run a report at the end of the month. So somebody might have the outcome, but they don't know what it entails to provide the data that they need.
You're much closer to the operations, the actual sort of ideas and decision making and process and execution side. And I can see why you prefer the operations consultant title to the VA one, because I think sometimes people think of VA as a personal assistant, but you're much more than that, right?
Absolutely. Obviously, somebody in my capacity, we can do the VA role. People see the difference with a VA is it's more of a reactive role. Somebody, you might say, I need a VA to do my data entry, manage my diary, and run reports at the end of the month. And the difference is a VA does that virtually. A PA is generally somebody who's in the office, works with the executives 9 to 5, whereas a VA tends to work or can work out of hours, works to a time that suits them. Whereas as an executive assistant, which is more my role, you're more proactive. So I'll come in and meet a client and I'll be more proactive with suggestions on how they can perhaps work more streamlined processes that they need to be in place. So yeah, I'm kind of like the bully that comes in and tells them what they need to be doing, as opposed to the VA who will be told what they need to be doing. And then again, on the operations side, it's taking it up a level and looking at the company in a holistic way from start to finish overall. Yeah, supporting on the business side.
So where do people waste most of their time?
Doing admin that, quite frankly, they've got no business doing. So the way I explain it to my clients are, somebody started an IT company and they were doing all of the bookkeeping. Did you start an IT company to be a bookkeeper? And the answer is no. People enjoy doing their skill set, their sweet spot. But we all know running your own business, you are the cleaner, you are the administrator, you are the market researcher. But your sweet spot should be what you enjoy doing and what you do best. And people have to get involved in doing all of the admin because there's nobody else to do it. So that's where we get involved and we take on all of the admin, all of the processing that isn't not, especially if you're a creative. If you're a creative, the last thing in my experience is sitting down and, updating the CRM with all of the marketing calls that's been done this week. They should be out creating the business, doing the research, whatever it is their role, and leaving the admin and processing and everything it takes to run the business, all the financials.
Do you also find that a business owner that takes, say, 5, 6, maybe 10 hours a week doing admin is a role that someone in your position takes a lot less time to do and maybe even better?
Absolutely, because that's what we do. People who do their own admin have probably been doing it for a long time and maybe aren't up to speed on new apps or new, I don't know, in Excel, a formula might help them do something quicker than what they're doing it. So generally, if somebody is taking 8 to 10 hours a week to do admin, that is 100% role that a VA or somebody like myself can step in and do. And it frees up that person's time where they could be spending 8 to 10 hours going out and getting new clients in or enhancing the role that they're already doing for their client. And ultimately, bringing in more referrals or, bringing in more money.
I think the challenge is that sometimes someone thinks, well, it takes me 10 hours a week to do this. I need to get someone in for 10 hours a week. And you could probably do that all for 10 hours a month, if not less, and better.
Absolutely. And once I sit down with the client and I show them how I could perhaps speed up their processes, they'll realize that they're probably better off getting somebody in 4 hours a week to do the job that they're doing in 10 hours. I personally work in pockets of time. So I have clients where I do 3 hours twice a week. And if I need more, then I discuss it and we do more. And it's about getting the priorities together that need to be completed within those pockets of time. But once you sit down and you show what you can do, how much time, how much quicker it is for you to do it. And we come with the experience, as we said before, about using particular apps, or once we've done something and put a process in place, if they haven't got that process in place, ultimately it will be quicker for us to do it.
I just think going from something which is a burden for most people, I think most people really hate admin, especially when you're in business, to do something else. And then to have someone do that for you, I mean, that's a privilege. You should be thinking like, oh my goodness, finally, there's someone who can do this for me. I think a lot of business owners are going to be spending time on things that they really don't find engaging, and we'd much rather be doing other things. And you taking that off them then frees them up to be doing the thing that they actually should be doing, which I think has got ancillary benefits as well. You might be feeling better about your business. There's a mental health angle I see. Is the opportunity to get more sales in. But talk to us about how that systemization within the business helps the business grow.
So with systemization, I always encourage people to think, do you want to be doing this every day for the next however long? If you have a system in place and you want to grow, we can get a standard SOP, standard operation procedure, in place. So if you want to bring somebody on board, you don't have to sit with 3 people and get them and show them what they need to do. You can give them the SOP, they can read through it, and then come to you with any questions. So that growth is sped up. If you have somebody who you want to come in and do an admin process, if there is a procedure in place, you can get them in without having to then spend 2 days taking them through how to do it. So systemization not just speeds up the process of day-to-day activities, but it also gives the business owner confidence that there's sustainability, that whoever is doing that task will be doing it in the same way they would, to the same standard. And having a checklist at the end of every SOP means that whoever's doing it can, there's There's tasks that I do every month, twice a month, and I still refer to my SOP and my checklist because that's what it's there for, to make sure the quality is the same. So it gives the business owner peace of mind, clarity that their documentation, even the language, is consistent throughout all of the communication. There's an email that goes out, you create a draft, and whoever sends it is using the same language. So it's consistent for the company. So as you say, less stress is good for everybody's mental health. And if that person's sweet spot is doing one thing really well, I have methods that identifies what person A has to do, what person A likes to do, what they don't like to do, and what they can delegate. And once you go through that and you can understand what can be passed on, immediately the person feels better. Even if it's to go on holiday for a week, or that they want to go and do an exercise class or go golfing on a Tuesday morning, having processes and procedures in place gives clarity and frees up that person's time, because they either have to do it, so you schedule it in properly, or they just delegate it and don't do it.
So you've mentioned consistency and reliability in both of those things. And to me, that moves the needle on quality a lot. So when we get the consistency and reliability, that moves the needle a big way in terms of the way in which customers and employees experience the organization. Would you say that's true?
Definitely, 100%. And it adds on. So if you've had a good experience, for example, I worked with an accountant who was opening up a shop, and their team hadn't really got any customer facing experience. So we sat down and I did some training on customer handling, what to say when the phone rings, how to manage, and what that journey looks like, to then somebody walking across the threshold of the door. Do they want information? Do they want an appointment? So if you have that experience and then you recommend somebody that you know to that person, if the consistency in that customer journey isn't there, and then they have a bad experience, they're going to come back and, I thought you said that they were really good. So that customer journey and being clear on what that customer journey looks like helps ultimately the business grow, because the business owner can be confident that whoever comes in, whoever answers the phone, are going to be handled to a certain standard. So that consistency allows the business owner to rely on their team, which fosters good employee owner relationships. And it also, if you're a referral partner or you like that person's business, you can be confident that if you refer somebody, they're going to get that consistent, good customer experience.
I think you're also doing quite a lot for mental health here, because you're giving the owner the confidence that things are being taken care of. There's a big mental load that you relieve them of.
So when people are clear on their role, it gives the team confidence that they are providing what's expected of them by their employer. And there's no ambiguity of whose responsibility it is to do whichever task. So if there is an issue, if you know a certain staff member is in charge of answering the phone, booking the appointments, sending information, if that doesn't happen, that person knows actually that was my role. And if it didn't happen, then that's on me. And even if they had delegated it for somebody else during the lunch hour or something, it's still that person's responsibility to come back and say, was everything all right? Any queries over lunch? So it gives team members clarity on roles and responsibility. And it makes you more happier in what you're doing, because that's my bag. I need to do that the best that I can. And if everybody does their task, whatever it may be, to the best of their ability, collectively, everybody's going to do well and the business will grow.
I wanted to talk about project completion, because that's one thing where I think entrepreneurs or business owners are notorious at, with starting something and then kind of leaving it and then going on to the next shiny thing. So what do you offer in terms of that?
So I mentioned earlier about creatives. You know, we all know everybody's different, and there's lots of personality questionnaire things that you can take. What are they called? Personality, or what are they called?
Personality test?
Yeah. So when people are a creative, for example, they love coming up with new ideas. They get very excited about, oh, this is really good. Or they'll hear about something and they'll say, oh, this is really good. I really want to use this platform. So they chuck all the ideas in and they get really excited. And then in a couple of days' time, there's another shiny tool that they really want to get. They really, oh, this is going to be really good for our business. So what keeps happening is with entrepreneurs and creatives and business owners who like having new things to focus on, things never get completed. So what we bring is that completer finisher role where we can see what is a good tool for the business. Not every tool works for every business. So once we get an understanding of how the team work, we will be able to identify tools and then we can set them up. And again, it comes back to doing the basics well, following a process, and that ultimately will see a project or a task through to the end. So what we do is see the bigger picture through to completion. And by keeping our clients on track, keeping them focused, relieves and brings a bit of clarity to them because they can say, I don't have to think about what it takes to get there because I know ultimately it's going to be completed. So you just bring in and talk to your client. Tell me this, what's happened with this project? Did you have that meeting? What was the outcome? They don't need to know what we then do with it and where we enter that data in the process. They just like to know that it's going to get done. So that completer finisher trait works really well with creatives, people who have lots of ideas and want to, just have all those new tools that sound really good, but ultimately doesn't work for everybody.
Sounds like there's quite a big coaching element to what you do as well. Is that a fair statement?
Definitely. I do, as well as going in and working with teams and coaching the staff on how, and training. If we're putting in a new process, you've got to be able to coach the team to get them to understand why setting up this new process is worth following. So you're coaching them through the process in a way that makes them feel a part of the process, but also coaching the business owners that this is the right tool for them. And as I said before, as a business assistant, you are the person keeping everything on track and guiding your client through all the processes, but also getting people to understand that what their business is. Sometimes people forget why they went into business in the first place because they're so busy turning all the cogs and making sure all the cogs are turning that they forget actually they really loved doing what they do. And I often say I help my clients fall back in love with what they do because I've had some clients, I'm really struggling, I've lost my interest, I'm, struggling to keep focused. Well, that's because they're focusing on the wrong things. So it's coaching clients to get back to doing what they love by taking away all of those things that they don't particularly like doing. So it's coaching people through the day-to-day processes. So ultimately they're happier in the long run.
So Rachel, tell us about compliance, because I think that's a big C word to lots of businesses. So how do you help? What do you do in that space?
So coming from a background of market research, I think it was 2018 when the GDPR new policies and came into place. It was really important that we very quickly understood what those changes looked like, the implications to the business, and then putting in place the policies and the procedures that made us look compliant, basically. So from there, it's about looking at putting the right policies in place for the business. And how do you go about that? Not especially small businesses. We don't have a compliance department. So once I've got to grips with the policies, with the procedures that need to be put in place, then the big bigger picture is, okay, how can we instill that trust in the people that want to use our services? And that's where compliance policies come into place. Working, again, being chair of a charity that supports survivors of human trafficking and modern day slavery, we have to have a modern slavery policy. We have to have a GDPR policy, a privacy policy, making sure that the relevant compliance is in place. And it doesn't matter whether you just have a website or you've got 200 employees, you have to at least have a privacy policy on your website. And there's many other basics that need to be put in place. And thanks to, the internet, ChatGPT, by Bill, there's tools that can very easily create them. You still then have to have the understanding of the business to fine tune and hone it in. And it just gives a bit more credibility to your business and how you operate. Once you've got just one or two basic policies in place.
How did you get into this?
Gosh, I think it's like everything goes back to childhood. I was the youngest of 6 siblings growing up, and we were all really close. And there's 8 years, I think, between my older brothers and me. And I just wanted to be involved in everything. So I really had to manage my time to make sure I wasn't missing out on what was going on over here and what was going on over there. And as a family, there was always an extended family. And so there was always something going on that was interesting and fun. And I think when I was finishing school, there wasn't it wasn't the thing of going to university and all that stuff. So I just learnt to type and started doing secretarial work and realised my first job, I loved doing lots of things and being involved in not just the same thing all day, every day. And from that's how every role that I took on, it was growing my skill set, making things happen where there probably wasn't a process to do it. So, for example, my very first proper job was at a photographer studio, and the owner was a hairdresser and he owned the hair salon next door. So I was the studio manager and his PA. And then as the receptionists left, the hairdressers, so I would go in and catch up every night. So it was just picking up, the different roles. So I'm like a sponge. I would always learn, right, okay, how can I help? What can I do to help that situation? What do I need to learn in order to, help? And fun. I worked with people that I really enjoyed being around. And if you were off sick or you couldn't go in, you'd be on the phone. What did I miss? And the next day when you went in, everybody was, it was fun and you didn't want to miss out. So I enjoy solving problems, learning how I can help resolve that to the best of whatever the situation is. And problem solver. So that's how I see everything that I do every day. How can I solve that problem? And once I've solved the problem, how can I make it better? How can I improve that system? How can I speed that up? What can I take off that person? So that's just grown from there, really.
It's terrific to me how that question, how can I help, grows into so many things. And that seems to have been a theme throughout your career.
Yeah, and it's the basis for everything. I guess everything that I've done is about supporting others. So as a PA, you are there to make sure your client has, if they're going for a meeting, have they got the reports that they need? Have you done the travel so they're getting there on time? If there's an issue, have you put in a buffer zone? It's all about supporting somebody else to shine, really. And with that comes a lot of responsibility, because if they're late, it's your fault because you didn't do your travel timing properly. If they've got the wrong report, then they're not going to look very good pitching up to a meeting if they haven't got the right information. So there is a huge responsibility when you are supporting somebody else. And whether it's as a VA, whether it's as a operations consultant, which is more on the business side, or as a business assistant. But yeah, it's definitely about supporting people, helping others be the best that they can be, because in turn, that makes you the best version of yourself.
So you're a keen disability advocate as well. Can you tell us more about that, Rachel?
Sure. So when you talked about earlier about my siblings, I've got a younger brother who's a wheelchair user. And because of his physical disability, he needs an assistant wherever he goes. So I've done a lot of adventures with him and understand the struggles and the challenges that people with disabilities face every day. And where you and I take things for granted, like going into London, getting a train, getting a bus, it has to be planned to every tube station. Is it accessible? If you come out, can you go down? Is there an accessible toilet? And so because being invested in that community, you hear more about other people's struggles. So I try where I can. For example, my networking group, we've got a great venue now where it's all wheelchair accessible. And on the welcome email, I put a breakdown of the schedule in case people need to know what's happening when. There's little things that can be done. And yeah, I just, again, like to support where I can and try to raise awareness, just even if it's if I go somewhere and there's no step-free access, conversations around how easy that can be adjusted to make it more accessible, whether it is a physical disability that you can see or not.
Yeah, I had the experience a few years ago where someone wanted to highlight how inaccessible a building was, and they gave us able-bodied people a challenge with wheelchairs to get from where we were out the back of the building and back in again. And this was in London, so it was a London office building, and it was surprisingly challenging. I remember banging my fingers on the lift doors going, I didn't know it was this wide. But the other thing was there's just a very slight camber on the pavement, and I didn't know how difficult it was to push a wheelchair when you've got an angle like that, because you've got to push more on one side than the other. So I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, we think we're well advanced in disability rights. You know, that's a good thing, but also there's so much more to do still. What are things that you think we could do easily within business to address?
So the easy wins are training staff members, anybody who is in the building. They may be faced with somebody who looks a bit discombobulated, for example, and it's just training your staff how to engage. Does that person just need some guidance? Is it too noisy? Maybe they're sensory overload. Is there a quiet space where they can take people to just have a sit and, decompress? It's the majority is training. If there's a step, do staff know whether there is a ramp that can be brought out so somebody can come? And it's not just a wheelchair user. It could be that somebody has limited mobility and can't step up, and they're restricting access. Do lifts have a countdown as to what floor the lift has gone to, for example? So signage can press a button and somebody can come out and help. So that the biggest issue is lack of training around staff. So if you're a charity, if you are a shop, if you're a business, just do some training on raising awareness about accessibility and how you can support.
Where would people get the information from to be able to do the training? Because I imagine a lot of people go, I'd love to give training, but I don't know what I'd say.
Dare I say it? Good old Google. You can go in if there's a specific query that you've got. There are lots of charities who offer training. For example, Dementia Friends, they offer training for people.
You're also the chairperson of Their Voice, a charity for survivors of human trafficking. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, that was interesting how that came about. So when I first became self-employed, gosh, over 25 years ago, one of the things that I wanted to do was always in my schedule include some voluntary work, time for voluntary work. It's something that I've always done since school. When I was in school, I used to go to a school next door that was for children with special educational needs. And I just enjoyed going in and helping where I could. So I just wanted to carry that through and make it a priority for me when I could manage my time and offer it. So I did that consistently. I was a Home Start mum for 14 years, which is a charity that supports mums with kids under 5 who are struggling for whatever reason to cope on a day-to-day basis. And then I worked with somebody whose mum had set up this charity. She left to go and support her mum, and I did the same. If there's anything I can help with, let me know. So she came back and said, "Oh, Rach, can you help with this spreadsheet?" So I said, "Sure." So I set up a spreadsheet that would help them track all of the referrals that they received. So I said, "Oh, do you want me to come in and set that up?" So that was 10 years ago. So I then volunteered there on a weekly basis. Then they asked me to become a trustee, which I was delighted about in 18. And then 2, 3 years ago, I became chairperson. So, yeah.
So if someone wanted to go into being a business operations consultant like yourself, what would you say to them?
I would ask them, what specific niche do they have? Is there a specific niche that they could hone in on? Because there's lots of people who offer VA support. However, it's so far reaching. The easiest thing, and I would say, do you specialize in the construction industry? Do you work in the legal profession? So if somebody was thinking, I'd really like to be a VA or an operations consultant, I would highly recommend that they have a specialist field. So I, for example, was in market research. So when I first became self-employed, most of my clients were market researchers who themselves set up their market research agency, but had no admin support, having come from a company. So I was the support person for probably between 4 and 10 market researchers who they then became self-employed. So think of your niche, your background, and where you could specialize in, just to start with, so you can then reach out to that community and get your first few clients in a specialism that you can focus on. And then when you build up your client base, then you can reach out, and then you'll have had a few clients and some history behind you.
It's the best part of your job, Rachel.
Best part of my job is seeing an outcome that you have suggested come to fruition. So if I have a client who wants to achieve a goal and you put the wheels in motion for them to work less hours or actually fall back in love with what they want to do, and you see that coming to reality, and just seeing my clients shine. I had a lovely testimonial from a client who just said, "My gosh, the relief of just knowing things are getting done." And that's what I enjoy, knowing every day that I'm making a difference to somebody at the end of their day, they're feeling better about what they're doing because they've got some clarity, and they're supporting me. I'm there to make sure that their lives are better.
If someone wanted to get in touch with you, Rachel, where would you point them to?
So I guess, first of all, the good old website, I'm www.backupadministration.co.uk. And that will give all the bit of background about what I do and the services that I provide. And then from there, you will find my LinkedIn profile. I've got a Facebook business page and Instagram business page. And then from there, you can probably find out a bit more about me, the person, as well.
Terrific. Rachel, I think it's tremendous what you do. I mean, you talked about giving people the gift of falling back in love with the business that they started and taking that weight off a business owner, giving the staff and customers and everyone a much more reliable and consistent experience, a much higher quality experience within the business. And it's tremendous to think that all of those things come from having someone like you with that business operations consultancy experience go into a business to help business owners. So thank you. Tremendous work. And thank you for doing that.
It's my pleasure. And I think the other thing to mention is the team that you build up around you. I can't do and offer the support that I do by myself. I've got associates that I work with, building relationships and actually getting to know and trust people, having reliable platforms that provide that operations hub, thanks to yourself and by Bill. All my clients are on it. It's
Thank you.
having the tools and building up what works for you. And yeah, I couldn't offer the service that I do without the team around me that I know and trust now as well. So that's key. But yeah, and I enjoy it. That's the bottom line as well. I enjoy what I do, which is definitely key.